Olá pessoal, boa tarde, bem-vindos a mais um Mock Class aqui da EFIG. E hoje temos a parceria aí da EU Business School, uma universidade europeia que a gente vai falar mais sobre. Mas primeiro eu quero agradecer a participação de todos. Acredito que todo mundo já acabou as aulas. Agora vamos curtir um pouquinho de uma aula de uma universidade internacional. Eu acho que vai ser muito bacana. Como muitos de vocês sabem, a EFIG é uma agência de educação internacional que ajuda vocês aí internacionalizar o seu currículo, tá? Então, assim, a EFIG tem o programa de aconselhamento que vai ajudar vocês a montar um portfólio digital, que isso vai ajudar vocês na parte de conseguir bolsas e na parte de admissão para as universidades internacionais. No programa de aconselhamento, a gente tem diversos profissionais envolvidos, como uma professora americana que vai ajudar vocês a escrever um personal statement, que para quem não sabe, é a sua carta de apresentação para a universidade. Vocês também vão ter a orientação do TOEFL, do IELTS, vão ter a oportunidade de conversar com os admissions das universidades, o que é muito bacana, a gente coloca vocês em contato com eles, tá? Então, esse é o programa de aconselhamento. Se você está pensando em fazer universidade fora ou tem a curiosidade, por favor, entre em contato conosco. Eu vou passar o meu e-mail e meu telefone, meu WhatsApp. Pode mandar mensagem, a gente marca uma reunião. A EFIG também tem programas de high school no exterior. Então, se vocês querem fazer um semestre de high school, entre em contato que a gente vai achar o melhor fit para vocês. Summer Camp, tá? Então, vocês vão também ter a oportunidade de fazer Summer Camp no Canadá, na Europa, na Austrália, nos Estados Unidos. Então, entre em contato. E é isso, gente. A EFIG ela é uma agência de educação internacional, não é uma agência de intercâmbio, que está em parceria com as escolas de todos vocês para ajudar a internacionalizar o currículo, tá? Gente, mais uma vez, obrigado. Sejam bem-vindos. Muitos de vocês já estão toda semana aqui com a gente, então vocês já sabem o drill, vocês já sabem qual que é o processo. Mas lembrando, para quem nunca veio, deixe o microfone desligado e quando for falar com o professor, ligue o microfone. Aproveite essa oportunidade. A gente tem um professor de uma business school fantástica na Europa. É um professor com uma excelência acadêmica fantástica. Ele tem muita experiência. Então, assim, vamos aproveitar e dividir essas experiências. Se você está com vergonha, não tem problema. Liga o chat e aí eu vou traduzindo para o professor, vou falando com o professor. Não tem problema. Mas, assim, quem quer participar mesmo, abre o microfone e fale com esse professor. Ele é muito gente boa, vocês vão ver. Então é isso, eu vou passar agora a palavra para ele. Eu espero que todos vocês aproveitem muito isso. O certificado de vocês vão estar pronto daqui provavelmente amanhã, tá? Então é só acessar o site lá e retirar o certificado. E vamos aproveitar essa aula sobre introdução ao business, tá bom? Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Diego. I hope you can hear me, right, at the moment and see me.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Diego, so much. I will just share my screen first and then we start with the presentation, all right?
Brilliant.
There we go. I think you can, everybody can see my screen. Yes?
Yes, we can.
That's perfect. So on behalf of EU Business School, a very warm welcome and a good afternoon to all of you. I'm extremely delighted to be with you and to discuss Introduction to Business and Entrepreneurship with such a wide variety of students in Brazil. First of all, before even introductions and everything, I hope all of you, particularly the youngsters there, you're keeping safe, you're keeping healthy. I know the COVID situation in Latin America is now still at its peak, the same in my home country, which is in India. So I think you definitely hope that you are safe and you're not only being responsible for yourself, but also for others. So again, a very warm welcome to all of you. Now, before we get into the presentation, just in terms of expectation, I hope to keep you for an hour or so. I have about 20 slides. Those who know me, I mean, I have people from EU Business School, they know I hate using PowerPoint slides because early on in my career, somebody wiser than me told me that if you want people to remember you, you tell them a story. And if you want people to forget you, you show them a PowerPoint. But the situation is such that I am at home at the moment because of all this lockdown and everything, and it's evening in Geneva, Switzerland, and we could do this, we can still do this through the assistance of technology. So once again, a very, very warm welcome. The second thing is I hope to have your participation. Otherwise, it just feels like I'm screaming in front of the screen. I talk a lot. I was a lawyer in my previous life, so that makes me, I really talk a lot sometimes. Huh? So do stop me if you have any questions. I'm also sharing with you my email address. Please feel free. If you have any questions at any time or through LinkedIn or anything that you can find, it would be great. It would be my pleasure to remain in touch with all of you. So quickly, just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Sudha Chakravarti. I live in Geneva, Switzerland. I am the head of research for EU Business School, but what I'm passionate about is still teaching. Okay, I love to be in front of my students and deliver classes. So that's why I really love what I'm doing right at the moment and talking to all of you. So I mainly, being a lawyer from India, I practiced criminal law, but then I came to Switzerland. I did my master's and my doctorate in international affairs. So those are the topics I generally teach, and law. But of course, teaching in a business school also means you're exposed to a lot of business ideas, and we have different programs. So I teach a couple of business modules. And of course, living in Geneva also means you're constantly in touch with the business world. We are very fortunate to be here. And these are some of the messages that I wanted to share with you. Now, I understand that the students, the group, you guys, those who are joining me, you guys are still young, you're still in school. Diego told me that you guys are anywhere from between grade 8 to grade 12. And that proves to be a little difficult. It's always easy to teach older students or, doctorate students. It's easy. It's very difficult to teach school students sometimes, but I'm going to try my best because I know all your levels are different. So in terms of what I do with the presentation, I start with the conclusion in terms of what are the expectations, what I'm going to cover. So the topic is, of course, introduction to business. I have added the and entrepreneurship. Now, of course, we can stay here for a year. I mean, there's so much to talk about. And I generally give lectures on business and innovation, focus on innovation and on sustainability. But when you need to introduce what is business and everything else, that's quite complicated, and to concise that in 1 hour. So I'm going to try my best. So what we're going to do is we're going to define what is a business and the purpose of business. Then I thought it would be useful for you to understand the different types of business and the way it functions, what are the advantages of particular types of businesses over the other. And as you guys would become future entrepreneurs, what are the choices you have at your arsenal, at your disposal to make your business function better. And the last bit of the presentation, I will focus on entrepreneurship. What do great entrepreneurs do? And I'll leave you with a few pointers. So with that, I hope I will anyway start my presentation. If you have any questions, I don't know if the chat function is on, whether you can comment or you can ask your question, but people take it as it goes. I think the administrators are there to assist us with that. So my first slide is, what is business? Okay. And everybody knows what is a business, but what is a business in terms of how can we define it? I would define business as something that also changes the way we live. I mean, think about today. Would we be able to do this, what we're doing, without entrepreneurs, without businesses? Would we be able to consume the goods and services that are so easily available to us? I grew up in the 1980s and I know how difficult it was to get something. I grew up in India, and similar to Brazil, we had different policies which made imports from abroad very difficult. So when it was only in the early 1990s when we first got the Coca-Cola and we were so excited. And now I cannot imagine my life without a McDonald's. So yes, I will define business and everything, but we sometimes do, criticize businesses for being profit motive or being greedy and everything else. And if you're interested in that, think about the opposite example or an argument. What would happen to a world without entrepreneurs and businesses? If you're interested, there was a great book written by Ayn Rand, probably my favorite philosopher from the 20th century, called The Fountainhead, where the story is about, let's say, we always have laborers going on strike, and that is what socialism stood for. Okay, but what if all the entrepreneurs and the business people around the world, they go on strike? Then what happens? Okay, so businesses, we talk about businesses, but businesses are ubiquitous. Okay, they're not necessarily entities that are separate. This is organic. This is us. This is what we consume. This is how we lead our lives. Now, to simply give you an example, okay, what businesses and entrepreneurs do. And I'm taking this example right out of Nobel laureate Milton Friedman, one of my favorite economists. And he takes the example of a pen, okay? Imagine you have the brightest people you know around in your room, okay? Your school teachers, your professors and everything. I can do that myself as an example. Brightest people in my organization. And I give you a whole working day. Can you produce a pen? Okay, a simple thing like this ballpoint pen. This does not even cost $1. Okay, the general answer is going to be no. And even if you can produce it, okay, it is going to be way more expensive than $1. This is what businesses bring to us. Things that are goods and services that consumers, you and me, desire. Okay, and they bring it to us through their ideas, through the innovation, and through that, they put it into application, they apply that, and through the supply chains and everything, we all benefit immensely from the things we can consume in the 21st century, certainly. Okay, but we will talk a lot about that too. So just to define quickly what is a business, I mean, we have to do this. So a business can be defined as an organization or an economic system whose main activity revolves around the exchange of goods and services for money. Okay, you're not doing this for free generally, huh? And businesses, by and large, can be of three types, or many types, but three main types. So it can be privately owned, which means it can be owned by either one person or it can be owned by thousands of people. For example, a company. It can also be, some businesses are not for profit. If you take, for example, Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, these NGOs, these are not for profit businesses. And finally, you also have types of businesses which are state-owned. Okay. Now, I come from a country where before the 90s, many of the businesses were actually state-owned. The energy sector, banks were state-owned. And I believe it's the same right now also in Brazil. Banco Brasilia or Bank of Brazil, etc. These are all state-owned companies. This is where the country, the state, owns the maximum chunk of the company and controls it in terms of the control and everything else. So there are different policies in different countries, of course. So the main activity of a business is to bring goods and services to the market in exchange for money. Okay, and this is sometimes we get into an argument. Okay, businesses are greedy and everything. And let's take an example like McDonald's. They sell bad food. Yes, they do. Okay, but they do it because consumers also want it. Okay, we as consumers have the power and the ability to choose that. If you don't go to McDonald's, they won't be able to serve you bad food. Okay, or not bad food, but let's say unhealthy food. So it is consumers' preferences that finally drive businesses, and it is happening more and more today. You have to be in touch with your consumers, okay? Because consumers and what is happening outside of your business is what is making the biggest value for your business today. Not like in the past, okay? Today, the main value that you have of your business comes from outside. Take, for example, Apple. Now, many of you use Apple products. Now, Apple is worth, in terms of its market value, more than $1 trillion. Okay, that's 1 and 12 zeros after that. That's a big number. Now, more than $1 trillion, if you sell all physical assets and tangible assets of Apple, all, and make everybody redundant, all the human capital, the structural capital, all their products, the buildings, you will get around $200 billion. Where is the rest of the money, the market value coming from? It's people's faith. You and me, we have faith in Apple that they will keep innovating, and that's why we invest in such businesses, because it is through them that we change our world, and through that we change the world in itself. So keep that in mind, okay? Businesses can be of many types, and the main idea of a business is profit, okay? Not necessarily, but this is why people actually create businesses, okay? To satisfy a consumer demand, okay? So satisfying consumer demand, what is behind it is people. And behind people, behind everybody, there's a need. And you satisfy a need, okay, you have a business. So remember that. Try to do that when you become entrepreneurs yourself. Okay, so I want to discuss with you the types of business. So for that, we need to focus on the different types of businesses from the perspective of ownership. Okay, so business can have one owner or it could have thousands of owners. So that would depend on the type of business you create. And no one type of business is better than the other. Okay, all of them, all different types of businesses satisfy a different function and a different need. Okay, so yes, you can have different types of businesses like a sole proprietorship, you can have partnerships, you can have franchises, you can have cooperatives, you can have non-profits, and you can have corporations. Okay, different types of businesses, they basically satisfy different types of needs and functions, not only for the people they serve, but also for the entrepreneurs who create these kind of businesses. Okay, so what I'm going to be focusing on, of course, we can go forever on the different ways you can structure businesses or the types of business organization. I'll focus on the main three. Okay, and these main three are going to be important for you guys, I think. Okay. So the first type of business is what we call a sole entrepreneur or a sole trader. Okay, and we will talk about that. The second type of business I'm going to be talking about is what we call a partnership type of business. Also talk about that and go through the advantages and disadvantages. And finally, we're going to be focusing on what we call a company or a corporation. And within that, discuss what is a private limited company and a public limited company. Okay, so I hope you guys don't have any questions for now. I don't know who's moderating it, but do feel free, even the moderators, Diego, feel free to stop me if the students have any questions so far.
Yeah, Professor, I just asked them if they are too shy to speak on the microphone, they can tap on the chat box and I can read for them.
That's perfect. That's perfect. So just stop me. Otherwise, I don't know how fast am I going. Or... Thank you very much. Yeah. So we will start with the first type of business, which we call a sole entrepreneur or a sole trader. This is where a business has one owner. Now, it has one owner. It can have many employees. Of course, that one owner might be employing many, many employees. This is the most typical type of business. Okay. And this is where you have an idea, you want to create your own business. Generally, this is a sole entrepreneurship. Okay. And it has a lot of specialities. The speciality of this type of business is that you're specialized, you provide specialized service to consumers. So if you want to open a business like that, what do you first think? Who are my consumers? What do they want? Okay. These are the people who live in my localities. If I want to open a shop, I need to think about what do these consumers need? Is there a market for such things? And then I can do that. Okay. So sole entrepreneurs are based on providing specialized services to consumers. Okay. I'll give you an example. In India today, of course, we have also become very globalized and Americanized, and we have big shopping malls. And you go to Bombay, which is one of our biggest cities, and you have big shopping malls, and we have in the shopping malls, you can buy everything. But they still cannot compete with these small traders that sit on the road because they provide a very specialized service. They sit from, let's say, morning, you know, the bazaars or the markets. They sit from morning 7 to 9 o'clock. Okay, but they know each and every one of the customers. Okay, this is the guy I go for fish. This is the guy I go for vegetables. This is the guy I go for my rice and wheat and everything else. So they provide that human touch. Okay, so sole traders are very important because they provide a specialized service. They're also very sensitive to consumers' needs because their businesses depend on that. Okay, they're generally, if you take very, very small traders, their livelihoods depend on that. The sustenance depend on that kind of a relationship. They need to make that kind of a relationship. And hence, for these type of businesses, if you want to cater to local needs, you need to base it on trust. Okay, trust becomes a huge issue in such circumstances. If you're a big company, I'm not saying you shouldn't be trusted. Okay, but that does not necessarily is the sole criteria. Take Uber, for instance. And if you take another company like Uber, like let's take Zipcar, both are taxi services or automobile services, rental services, etc., car sharing. Now, Uber basically defines itself as better, faster, cheaper than other taxis. Okay, you do not need to engage, create relationships either with the company or with the people who have used Uber. Now, this is why, because people today, at least your generation, you're more savvy about how you spend your time and money. Okay, it's not necessary that I want to engage all the time. Now, this is something that Zipcar did probably wrong, or other companies they did wrong, where they bombard you with different advertisements and who's written and create a whole relationship-based, community. Okay, so again, for bigger companies might not be, and particularly in sharing economies, it might not be the most important element. But for sole traders, trust is a big element. Okay, you need to be trusted. Okay, so the advantages. Why, if you want to open a business and you want to be a sole trader, why? What are the advantages of that? First of all, you have total control. You have total control over the finances, over the decision making. This is not a democracy. It's my way. Okay, so you can completely have, how you want to direct your business completely rests on you. And secondly, it's relatively the cheapest way of starting a business. It's not much of a hassle. Okay, it's you and your business. The business is you. Okay, so it is much cheaper. Now, the disadvantages is, one is continuity. What happens if you're not there? Or what happens after you? It is difficult to raise finance. It is also difficult sometimes to get bright ideas because it's only you. Okay, and today we are coming to a point where in the knowledge economy, everybody knows more than you. So if you don't have the right people around you, that might not be the best solution for your businesses. And finally, you have unlimited liability. Now, this is what we do in law. This type of business has unlimited liability, which means any losses that your business occurs is also your personal loss. The law does not see you and your business as separate entities. So your business might be called whatever, XYZ business or XYZ company, but XYZ is you. Okay, Shuddha Chakrabarti, that's you. So if your business incurs a loss of, let's say, $1,000 and the business cannot pay it, okay, they can come after my personal assets and take $1,000 because under the eyes of the law, the business is not separate from the owner. So your liability is unlimited. Your personal liability is unlimited to the amount that the business owes. Okay, so this is one of the dangers you have to keep in mind. Okay, so whatever losses the business incurs is your loss too. Moving on, the second type of business is a partnership. Okay, so we are going through the evolution. A partnership is a type of business which has more owners. Okay, typically a partnership, now again, it depends from country to country. We have 193 countries, I can't go through all. Typically it has 2 to 20 partners. That means 2 to 20 owners who are called partners here. Now there are some type of partnerships in many countries where you can have more than 100 partners. Okay, but this is also a type of business, okay, where you have limited number of owners. And how the business has created a partnership, you generally sign a deed of partnership, which explains how much money or how much capital each partner brings in, how many votes do they have, what are the shares of profits that they have or losses. Okay, how do we add new partners? How do we dissolve the partnership? How do we terminate partners? These are structured in the deed of partnership. Now in a sole trader, you don't need to do that. Okay, it's only you. Okay, so here it's starting to get a little messier. Okay, so in a partnership, you need to have a partnership deed which delineates and explains the role and responsibility functions of every partner. Okay, now the advantages and the disadvantages, you can just, you can rotate that. The advantages of partnership is the disadvantages of sole trader. Okay, and opposite. Okay, so the advantages are you can bring in more people, more human capital, more ideas to the table. Okay, you can share the risks better, the losses better. If you have 20 partners and your loss is $1,000, you can share that better. Okay, you can bring in more capital. Sole trader, you're dependent on your own capital or how much you can raise on your own. Here you can raise it through 20 people. Okay, and it brings more credibility. Okay, if it's a partnership and you have pretty good partners in your team, that brings the business some sort of credibility. The disadvantage of partnership is now you're losing control. So if you want control, if you're obsessed about control, okay, go for a sole trader. If you're not obsessed about control, okay, or even sharing profits, go for a partnership, because you're now, your advantages, you can share the risk better. You can get more ideas. You can get more manpower into the business. So the disadvantages is you now do not control the business solely. Okay, you have to share profits you have to have others on board for decision making, and you know how decision making can slow down because of that. Okay, every organization faces that. The more people you have, okay, it slows down decision. And that's why even in politics we teach democracy might be the best form of government, but it's certainly not the most efficient, because you have to get everybody on board, make everybody happy. But what is similar as a disadvantage of partnership, similar to sole proprietor, is the liability is again unlimited. That means if the partnership has a loss of $1,000, all the partners are responsible for that. And if they can't pay, the partnership can't pay that $1,000, it can be taken from the private assets of the partners. Okay, so similar to sole proprietorship, partnership has the same weakness of unlimited liability. Okay, so these are the two basic rudimentary types of businesses, and this is what used to exist till the 19th century. This was very popular. Okay, so we move on to the third, which is a corporation. Okay, now the first corporation, there were many corporations, but the first, let's say, big one, okay, was in 1602, when the Dutch East India Company, which is the VOC, came into existence. And the purpose of it is, again, various, but I'm going to tell you one aspect of a story which I really like. The Netherlands is the place which, gave rise to modern corporations, modern finance, and they had hegemony over that because the Netherlands was a mercantilist nation. Okay, they used to trade. Now, in order to trade, you need to raise finance. Okay, I want to send 4 ships to Indonesia to bring me 5, spices. What happens? First of all, I need to raise finance for those 4 ships. Now, what happens if 2 of them drown in an accident? I need insurance. Okay, so necessity being the mother of all inventions, most of these financial instruments actually have its origins in Netherlands. Okay, so how do we raise finance now? Yes, we can go to the king or the queen. Okay, this is what Columbus did to sail to, he tried to find India, but he sailed westwards and found the Americas. But what if the king and the queen and whoever else, they don't want to give you the money? Okay, what if they are not very, innovative themselves? They don't want to invest. Then you're stuck. You can have a very good queen and king and queen who wants to really invest in all those things. What if you're stuck with a bad one? So your business cannot depend on that. So what they did is they used to give out papers, just a small piece of paper to people for pittance, some few coins and everything else. And now you own a company like the VOC. This is how the modern corporation came into existence. If the king and queen does not want to finance it, I can raise my finance using the population of my country. Okay, that was the case with the VOC, and they raised immense amounts of capital because now everybody had that piece of paper which said you are one of the owners of the Dutch East India Company. But where companies become more popular is after the Industrial Revolution in the 19th century and particularly the 20th century. Now, this is a type of an organization, business organization, which is very different. Okay, so I'm going to give you the skeleton of it. Okay, so for you to understand this. Now, corporation is different because a corporation is technically created by law. Okay, although you have owners, it is a legal person who is separate from the owners. So yes, you can have owners, okay, but the corporate identity and the entity is separate from its owners. Now, the owners of a company is what we call the shareholders. Who are the owners of Apple? Shareholders all around the world. So if you own 1 share of Apple, you're still an owner of that 1 share. Or if you have 40% of Apple, you are 40% owner of Apple. Okay, so
Professor, I'm sorry. Would you mind if you ask then what is a shareholder? Because
absolutely, I'll come to that. I'll definitely come to that. So because there's a division between ownership and management, I will talk about shareholder. Yeah. So how do I start this again? Okay, so a corporation is created by law. Okay, it's a legal person altogether. To give you the same example of Apple, imagine tomorrow all the people working for Apple do not work there anymore. Okay, imagine something happens. Does Apple come to an end? Absolutely not. Okay, Apple continues with or without the people. Okay, because it is a legal entity, okay, created by law. However, no matter how big it is, it can be dissolved by a court order. If, let's say, the US Supreme Court gives an order for the dissolution of Apple, it comes to an end. So remember one thing, first things first, a corporation is created by law. Okay, it's a legal entity whose identity is separate from its owners. Not like sole trader and partnership, where the identity of the business is basically you, the owner. The owners are the business. Here, the owners are not necessarily the business in itself. So who's the shareholder? A shareholder is, let's say, you want to open a company, a corporation. What you do is, there are many legal regulations, you want to open it, and then you start, what you want to fix is how much money you want to raise, finance. This is the reason why you want to open a company over a partnership or a sole trader, because you want to raise immense amount of capital. So what you do is, let's say you want to raise $10 million. Now, you don't have that kind of money. What you can do is, this is what I want to raise, $10 million. I can divide that into, let's say, 1 million shares of $10 each. Okay? And I can now float that to the general public to buy it. So if the public likes my idea, okay, which is in my memorandum and everything, they will invest. I don't need to know who the public is. Apple has millions of probably shareholders. Okay, does Apple know every owner? No. So it allows everybody, whoever's interested in it, to be owners by buying shares. Okay, so they are the shareholders by buying shares of the company. It allows me to raise that capital. Okay, so you want to open a company because your primary motive, other than, you want to be global, you want to have a bigger supply chain, and you want to have bigger operations, your primary motive is to raise more capital. Okay, and keep raising more capital, because it's not the only time you can issue shares. If you want more capital, you can issue more shares to the general public for them to buy it. Okay, so this is how a company is created by law. The ownership is with the shareholders, people around the world or people in your country, depends on the type of company. But it is managed by what we call the managers or the directors of a company. The CEO, the COO, CFO, the managers and the staff and everything. So you see, in law, they create this division between management and ownership. A company is owned finally by the shareholders. Apple is not owned by Tim Cook. Okay, it was not owned by Steve Jobs. It's owned by the people who own Apple shares. Okay, you can be the CEO, you are in charge of managing that and managing the interests of the shareholders. Okay, that means the interests of the company. So your main motive is basically profit in this case, and to make it worth for the shareholders who have invested in your company. So, because the way we have structured companies around the world, there is a difference between ownership and management. The liability you have is not unlimited, like in partnership and sole proprietorship. The liability you have is limited. So imagine one of you hold 10 Apple shares, which is worth, let's say, $10,000. I'm just giving a guess. That is your ownership into Apple. Now, let's say Apple goes into dissolution, bankruptcy, and Apple owes $400 billion. The law cannot come to you as an owner for $400 billion. It can only come to you for your contribution. You see, you're not unlimitedly liable. You're only liable for your contribution. So if you've only invested $100, your liability is still $100. Okay, so this gives immense amount of what you call flexibility in also taking risks. Okay. And we know if you want to be innovative or big companies, they do take risk. Otherwise you don't gain much. Okay. This allows company A to raise immense amount of capital. Okay. It allows companies also to take risks. Okay. Because of this division between who owns the company and who controls and manages the company. So this is what we have already done. I'll skip this slide. Okay. Now, there are two types of companies. Okay. Basically, one is what we call a public company and the other is what we call private company. Now, when I say a public company, it does not mean a public sector company, which is a government company. That's separate. A public company is a company whose shares are available to the general public. Apple is a public company. The shares of Apple, that means if you want to be an owner of Apple, is available for anybody to buy, right? Now, a public company, again, around the world, you might have different regulations, but generally has somewhere between what you call seven, what you call owners, shareholders, minimum, to unlimited. You can have millions of shareholders. Okay. So public limited company, minimum 7, maximum unlimited, infinite amount of shareholders. And the shares of public companies are available to the general public. Okay. And it can be transferable. So let's say I owe Diego $10,000 and I don't have the money, but I have $10,000 worth of Apple's shares. I can ask Diego, do you want my shares? Okay, I don't have money, but you can have my shares, which is worth $10,000. If he says yes, I can transfer him. I don't need to ask the permission of Apple to do so. So automatically there's a transfer of ownership of 10,000 from me to Diego. Okay, but I don't need to take a permission of Apple in this case. This is what we call a public limited company. And
so, Professor, sorry, for the public limited company. So basically what you're saying is you don't need to ask the permission for the older shareholders. You can do by yourself. So if you want to, if you want to sell, you do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay.
I can buy, I might have some restrictions depending on which country you're in and whether you can trade in those shares. But if I'm an owner of shares, I can sell at any point. Okay. And I can transfer at any point.
Okay.
To anybody without the permission of the company. Okay. Generally. Okay. Now, generally, you will see public limited companies are listed in your stock exchanges. Okay, this is how we follow public limited companies. So whether it is NSE, NASDAQ, et cetera, that we follow all around the world, these are public limited companies, okay, whose shares are available to the general public. Now, in contrast, you can also have a private limited company where the shares are generally limited to 2 to 50 people, the owners. Okay. Now in public limited company, it's 7 to infinite. Here it's between 2 to 50 people. And the shareholders, you cannot transfer the shares or just sell off the shares without the permission of all the shareholders or whatever the arrangement is. Okay. Now, why would you go for a private company over a public company? In a private company, you have more control. Okay. Because you have 50 owners maximum, like a partnership almost. You have more control. In a public company, your control becomes much lesser because your ownership can come from everywhere around the world. So your control is very, very minimal. Okay. But what public companies allows you to do is to raise capital like nothing else. In a private company, your ownership is 2 to 50 members. Okay. Take, for example, a private companies like Uber. I don't think Uber's shares are still available in the market. Facebook used to be a private company. Now, since the last 5 to 6 years or something like that, they have issued shares to the general public. Okay. So these are the two different types of companies. Again, both fulfill different functions and different necessities. And that's why, again, this is not better than the other. Depends what you want to do. If your sole motive is to have bigger operations, raise big amounts of capital, go for a public company, okay? But you lose control. If your motive is, I want to see how my business, I still want to keep some control first and then maybe make it public, go for a private company because you have 2 to 50 people maximum in terms of the decision-making, in terms of ownership, okay? So these are the 3 main types of businesses. okay, that you need to keep in mind, okay? The sole trader, the partnership, as well as a corporation, okay? And depending on your need, depending on what you want to sell, depending on what services you want to provide, depending on your specifications, capital to be raised, these are the things you might want to keep in mind, the advantages and the disadvantages of every type of business. So now, how do we start a business if you are the entrepreneur? So slowly we're coming into the entrepreneur side, okay? Now, this is a generic list of things you must have. Now, it doesn't mean that every point on the list is that important. Sometimes you can make do without it. But from an academic perspective, I have to take you through the list. So before you start, selling your product or opening a business, what you need to do is first conduct market research. What you want to sell, a good or a service, is there a market for it? Is there a niche for it? What you're selling, is it valuable and unique? Okay. Or is it just unique, but it has no value? Okay. You can watch this show on TV. It's called The Dragon's Den. I think it has the same in the US, where you see many entrepreneurs coming and pitching their ideas. And some ideas are amazing, but it has no application. Okay. So why would you buy something like that? Why are you trying to solve a problem maybe whose solution already exists? Okay. So you have to conduct market research. What is this you're trying to sell? Who is going to be your, let's say, consumer base? What age category, gender, what are the different things that, you have to keep in mind? You might want to conduct surveys. You want to conduct certain analysis into this before you start. Then the second thing is, if you really want to now raise capital and go to a bank and everything, or investors, you need a business plan. Now, a business plan does not mean your business has to be successful. There are many successful businesses that don't have a business plan, okay? But again, it's good to have a business plan because it allows you to plan everything, okay? It allows you to see things you might not have forecasted. Have a good business plan. That's your pitch. What is this business going to do? Okay, how will you raise the capital? How much capital are you intending to raise? In how many years or months are you going to break even? And why is this business profitable, do you think? Okay, so after conducting a market research, it's good to jot certain ideas down into a decent business plan. You can do it yourself. You go to McKinsey, they're going to charge you $500,000 to do that. Okay, but you can do that yourself with the skills. And nowadays you have many platforms that allow you to make your own business plan. Then you need to think about how you want to finance your business. Do you want to go to venture capitalists and make them invest in your idea? Do you want to go for crowdfunding? Just put your idea out there and see how many people are interested in your idea, and you can raise immense amount of capital. The iWatch, the Apple's Watch, the creator raised capital like that, okay, through Kickstarter and everything else. Or do you want to go to traditional places like banks and everything and raise capital? So you need to have a plan for that. Then pick a location. Now, location is becoming less important. I'm not saying it's important, not important, but it's becoming less important as businesses become global and digital. Okay, and we are seeing that with COVID. COVID has really thrown us 5 years in advance, okay, in terms of what is happening. But you need to pick a basic location because your business needs to be registered there. So for all legal issues and everything else, you need a headquarters and where the business is located. Then choose the type of business, of course. Okay, is it going to be a sole proprietorship? Is it going to be a partnership? Or is it going to be a company? Then choose a name. Now, this sounds easy. Sometimes it is not. Okay, there's a lot to do with the name. If it's a company, it should have the right suffix. Is it a private company? Is it a public company? You can go to Wikipedia, open Apple and open Uber. You will see one is a public limited company, one is a private limited company, the full name. Okay, so why do you need to have this? And every country has different things. Like we have LLC, okay, SA in Switzerland, and etc. Why? Because that suffix should provide information to anybody reading that name in terms of what type of company it is. So you're bound by law to provide the right suffix in the name of your company. Secondly, it should not be an existing name. It should not be a criminal name or something like that against the law, etc. And it should not bear any resemblance or any distinct association with the state or with the government, if it's a private company, that is. Okay. Then you need to register your business. Okay. Again, it depends from the different jurisdictions, how you register your business. World Economic Forum comes up with, I think, if I'm not mistaken, the ease of doing business index. Which countries have the easiest to open a business in, and how many hours or days it takes to open a business. So you need to register your business, the type of business, because that will assume your liability, whether it's a sole proprietorship, partnership, or company. Then if you're dealing with goods and services, you need to apply for your licenses and permits. Okay, that's very important. Again, it depends which country you're in. In Switzerland, it is not very difficult. It is difficult, but it's still more streamlined. But if I talk about India, it's much more difficult with the government and bureaucracy and everything else. And finally, it'll be good to have a bank account and also a current account where you can take loans and everything else. And that would be the bank account for your particular type of businesses, for all the business activities. So this is basically a checklist for any type of business you open. This is the first thing you want to keep in mind, okay, as an entrepreneur. So we have 15 minutes. I want to wrap up soon so we have time for questions. I want to move to the entrepreneur. So this is also about entrepreneurship. Okay, this is about, as I said, businesses are finally about people. Okay, because people are behind businesses. Huh? So an entrepreneur is a person who creates a business, bears the most risk, and enjoys most of the rewards. Okay, they use their skills and talents and innovativeness in bringing new ideas into reality. So they have a very, very important role to play in our consumer society today. Think about, as I started the presentation, think about a world without these entrepreneurs. Okay, can you think about the world without Facebook and Instagram, Mark Zuckerberg? Can you think about the world without, Windows and Microsoft and etc., which is Bill Gates? Okay, Steve Jobs, he democratized computers. The interface of Apple is so good. Okay, it completely revolutionized the way we do things. And it's not just the iPhone or a product, but iPhone, the iPod, the iTunes, they revolutionized other industries like the music industry. Okay, Jeff Bezos, Amazon, okay, started as basically a bookshop. Now they sell everything. They are also going to space with Blue Horizon. He's the richest man in the world. And we also have the current president of the United States of America, who's also a very successful entrepreneur. Okay, but entrepreneurs don't just think about business people who create goods and services. Oprah Winfrey is the richest celebrity. I still think she's the richest celebrity in the world today. Great entrepreneur again. So what I want to talk about is, as you graduate from school, as you go to college and universities, and if you think you want to be an entrepreneur, you have great ideas. Okay, I want to give you a few checklists in terms of what are the things you must keep in mind. Okay, so some advice. Okay, at least reflecting the current needs of the world today. So what do successful entrepreneurs do? Now, if you read biographies of different entrepreneurs, everybody has done different things. So be careful here, because there we have something called a confirmation bias kind of a thing. Okay, Bill Gates dropped out of school from university. That means it's okay for me to drop out of school. No. Okay, that's an exception. Most college dropouts don't do well in life. Secondly, Bill Gates was already a very, very intelligent human being, and he dropped out of Harvard. Okay, the same, Larry Page and Sergey Brin of Yahoo, they dropped out of Stanford. Yes, the PhD program. Okay, so this is not a good comparison where just because somebody dropped out and became a billionaire, that is the way to go for every entrepreneur. Okay, so be careful of confirmation biases. Okay, and this is the problem that we have when we read biographies, autobiographies, and you say, yeah, these people wake up at 4 o'clock. Yes, I mean, if you wake up at 4 o'clock, I don't know, will you be able to make such a difference necessarily? So careful with these kind of confirmation biases. But what I want to talk about is something that all of them do, kind of a thing. Okay, so I have about 7 points, 6, 7 points, and I will add a few more from my personal experience and everything else for your benefit. The first thing you want to do, now here, a caveat again, a disclaimer, most of the ideas I've taken from Guy Kawasaki. Guy Kawasaki is a great entrepreneur. You have a lot of videos of him on TED, as well as you can find them on YouTube. He used to work for Apple. He was a venture capitalist, and now he, Canva is, he's one of the people behind Canva at the moment. a great entrepreneur, and he has great advice for any young leaders. So the first thing you want to do is don't start from the premise, I want to make money. Money is the outcome of a successful business. Don't start from that premise. The main reason I want to open a business is because I want to make money. Okay. Money is the outcome of the business. If a successful business, yes, that's important. Nobody is denying that. But that shouldn't be the sole driver. Instead of thinking about making money, think about making meaning. Look at the biggest companies in the world today, businesses. Apple, the meaning they make, democratized computers. Okay. YouTube, democratized videos. Google, democratized information. They make meaning. Apple does not position itself as being, we are a company that sells laptops, phones, and music systems and all those kind of things. No. Apple, the meaning they make is they sell a lifestyle. You can love and hate an Apple, okay? The same way, you can love and hate a Harley Davidson. It polarizes people, okay? But they create a meaning. The meaning is basically why you exist. What benefit do you bring from your goods and services towards your consumers? How will they benefit using your products? That's the meaning you make, okay? And this is something that Steve Jobs was excellent in making meaning. So if you look at the Macintosh had a lot of problems, but from there where they have gone, they came up with the mouse, the interface, then the first, what you call iMac, and then you have the MacBook Air, etc., MacBooks and everything, iPods, and now the iPhone and iWatch and everything. Create a meaning. The second, have a mantra. Don't have a mission statement. Okay. Every company, every business has a mission statement. Okay. Nobody reads it. Like 10 points of mission statements, and everybody has positive words to say about the mission statement. This is what we stand for. The mantra is, what do you actually stand for? And it should not be like what Guy Kawasaki says, more than 3 to 4 words, not 10 lines, not 10 lines, 3 to 4 words, why you exist. Okay. How do you operationalize your meaning? For example, Nike has a great slogan. Nike's slogan is just do it. That's a slogan. The mantra that Nike has is authentic athletic performance. 3 words that describes what they do. Okay. Why your meaning should exist. That is your mantra. Don't have 20 pages of mission statements. Okay. Have a mantra. Okay. And try to see how you position your product and what you basically do in terms of creating meaning. The third, jump ahead. Okay. Think ahead. Don't do things. Don't try to do things. I'm going to sell computers. I'm going to do this thing 10% better than Apple does, or 10% better than Samsung or HP does. No, don't try to work 10%, 20% better. Try to move to the next curve. Jump to the next level. If you don't jump, okay, your innovation is not radical. Okay. Steve Jobs never made a better computer. He moved it to something completely different. He jumped to the next level. The iPhone was not, when it was launched in 2007, was not a better phone from Nokia and BlackBerry and everything else. It was the next level, not just the touch screen, but the apps that you could buy, that you could get. So everybody could have the same phone, but with different interfaces. Okay. Everybody's phone is personalized to them. That's jumping the next level. When you move from the normal printers to laser printers to even 3D printing, that's jumping to the next curve. Okay. So great entrepreneurs innovate at that level. Come up with something, try to jump to the next level. Don't try to do things just 10% better, 20% better. Okay. Because the thing is, somebody will do it even better than you. Okay. As the world becomes globalized. I'll come to the fourth point later. Embrace hard work. Okay, this is something that Guy Kawasaki also says. Now, this is very simple to understand and, to preach. But grit is very important. Okay, and you would see as you go through life, you would rather prefer having people who are hardworking more than intelligent. Okay, now there's a reason behind that, because how much intelligence you have is more or less set. I mean, you can improve it here and there. But hard work is something that all of us are more or less equal in our ability to do that. Now, we choose not to do that is a different thing. Okay. Hard work is exceptionally important. So all these entrepreneurs or the big people who have made it in life, there's no success formula, hard work. Okay. So how many hours are you really putting it? And entrepreneurs know this. Okay. If you're not passionate about something, you're not putting in that 16 to 18 hours a day. Okay. You're not really passionate about it. Hard work really, really has no substitute. Okay. So this is one of those, if you have a silver bullet, hard work. Okay. Not intelligence. You can get that. Have a growth mindset. Don't try to remain in the same block over and over again. Change with the times. Okay. Have that growth mindset. Now, what does it also mean? Don't just focus on what you do good. What you do good is already what you do good. Focus also on the negatives, because that is where you can grow as a person. Now, there's a saying, right? I mean, you never become, more successful, or you never improve yourself in comfort. Okay, if you're comfortable doing something, you never improve yourself. Improvement generally comes in being in discomfort. Okay, so focus also on the things that you're weak in. Okay, and we know that even with children. If children, let's say children do very well, let's say somebody does very well in the maths exam, don't say you're the smartest kid. Okay, then he or she won't do anything else. Yeah, I'm very smart in maths, I'm only going to do maths. No. Appreciate the hard work that has gone behind that. Okay, give credibility to that, but not to the fact that, okay, you are the smartest. Okay, so apply and have a growth mindset. Keep growing, keep growing. And particularly in today's knowledge age, in the sharing economy, in a globalized world, you have to keep growing and learning. It's not enough now you go to university, you have a bachelor's degree, master's or doctorate. Things are becoming more and more what you call redundant. Okay, things are depreciating. Okay, and what was true, let's say a year ago or 5 years ago might not be true now. So everybody has to keep growing at all levels. Okay. And finally, it is okay not to be perfect. This is one of the common mistakes that entrepreneurs make. They wait for the perfect time, wait for the perfect moment, okay, before they launch their product. It has to be perfect. Now, great innovators also know that, or entrepreneurs know that. If you wait for the perfect time for the, let's say, microchips to be the cheapest and this to be the best and this to, you will never ship. You will never sell. When the first Apple Macintosh was launched, it has many, many, many defects. Alexa, when it was launched by Amazon, it had many, many, many defects. Okay. But what you need to have is a minimal viable product. Now, once you launch it, you get your feedback from your clients, from the relationships you build with your customers. And then you innovate and you improve it. So you go from iPhone 1 to iPhone 2 to iPhone 3. Now you might say iPhone 1, the battery was really bad. iPhone 2 was a little better. And you keep improving. That's how entrepreneurs work. Steve Jobs did not have a silver bullet. Okay, I created one product that was so perfect, okay, that it kind of did it. Okay, SpaceX, Elon Musk, many rockets failed. It's fine. You will fail. Okay, it is a part of that. You have to embrace. As you embrace a growth mindset, you have to be able to embrace failure. Okay, now these are the main points that I have. Okay, the one I forgot is position yourself. And we spoke about that earlier. And that's why I wanted to do it in the end. When you want to, come up with the goods and services and you want to be an entrepreneur, think about the value and the meaning you're making, of course, and the mantra you have. Your product or service should be unique and valuable. This is where you want to be. You don't want to be unique and not valuable. You don't want to be neither unique nor valuable. Okay, or it's okay to be valuable but not unique. Okay, these are companies or businesses that compete on prices. Okay, let's take Dell computers. They are valuable, they're not unique. It's the same motherboard, same platform, every computer after every computer. Here you're competing on price. But you want to be like Apple. You're both unique and valuable. So these are the points I have. Now, I have a couple of other points that I want to share with you through personal experiences. Being great entrepreneurs, okay? One, be humble, okay? Humble also for knowledge for everything else. Now, yes, many people will tell you, and it is true, being arrogant makes you successful. There's no doubt about that. You should be arrogant, not about who you are, but what you do and what you can do, about your abilities. You should be arrogant and proud of it. Okay. But humility is what makes you great. So be humble. Okay. Learn, grow. Okay. From every corner. Okay. That is what makes you extremely successful. Be humble. Now, the four most important words in business is basically, how can I help? Okay, be humble in that. The second, from different people I've met, read about and everything, successful entrepreneurs read a lot. This is one thing that is common. Okay, some might not, but most people read. Indra Nooyi, who used to be the CEO of, the most successful CEO of PepsiCo, okay, used to read about average 5 to 10 books during her vacations. Warren Buffett, who's over 85 years old, I don't know how old is he, but he's in his octogenarian, if not 90. He reads about 500 to 1,000 pages a day. Bill Gates reads a lot. Okay, so it's not like, you know, they don't improve themselves and they've just been lucky. They keep growing. So read a lot. Okay, be humble, apply a growth mindset. Okay, and these are the basic things you need to be a good entrepreneur. I think we are right on time. It is 1 hour. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope this has made sense. I didn't see much engagement during the time of my presentation, but if you have any questions, I'll be more than willing to answer them. And if your questions are long or you have many things to discuss, my email address is with you. Please do write to me. Again, once again, it's been an honor and a pleasure, and I hope you guys had fun too. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Diego and all the people behind FEJ for giving me this.
Thank you very much, Professor. It was amazing. I got so fascinated here.
I got a lot of things that I learned when I did some postgraduate in business. So it was very, very interesting to watch. So now, guys, has anyone got any questions or any comments you guys want to share with Professor? Again, that's an amazing opportunity that you guys are having here. This amazing professional, this amazing professor, got a lot of experience. So please, guys, open your microphone. That's the chance that you guys have. And let's talk to Professor Shuda. So, Professor, just to let you know, on Monday, they got a class about communication. Mm-hmm. And from a Finnish university, and the professor told him that then to pay very much attention about this class today, Introduction to Business, because it would be a very good way to then find themselves in a business career or in a business way. And I'm 100% sure it was true.
I hope so too. I mean, we had 1 hour. I mean, with a topic like that, we could go on for a year.
Yeah, was so nice. I know we got some students here, Professor, who always talk on the classes, and I really, really want to see them talking today as well. I don't know if they are
shy or if they don't have any questions, but I can see the chat from time to time.
Yes, they are saying thank you. They enjoy a lot. I'm 100% sure.
Do stay in touch, everybody. Okay, and if you have any.
There we go, Olivia.
Yes, Olivia.
Okay, I only want to say thank you because it was incredible. I learned a lot, and thank you very much for this class.
You're welcome. I hope this was a good learning experience for all of us.
Yes, it was.
And I wish you all the best. Thank you for joining.
Brilliant. Thank you, Olivia. Okay,
hey, I have
Laura?
a question. Yes.
Yeah, Laura.
It's, I think, a very controversial question, but maybe you can answer because you have been in this field for like a while.
No, go ahead. No problem. I mean, it can be as controversial, yes.
Okay. Do you think you can like be on a business major and still be like a socialist?
Wow.
All right, Professor, it's all yours.
Too philosophical, but like no. I have been thinking about that.
Don't be sorry at all, Laura. Don't be sorry.
No. This is a classical question. I mean, if you go theoretically, I mean, they are two opposing forces, yes. But why not? I mean, see, I mean, Are you obsessed about socialism as such, or are you obsessed about being, let's say, a business person who also takes care of society? Okay. And if you look at even like people who do philanthropy, who do great things, they do not need to be socialist. Now, socialism is an ideology, business is an activity. Okay. So there is no reason that they have to be inclusive or exclusive of each other in this case. So if you want to be a, let's say, you ask me a controversial question, a cutthroat capitalist, and all you want to do is to make money. Okay, there's a virtue in that too. If you're not cheating anybody, if you're not causing harm to anybody, there's a virtue in that too, because that means you do provide goods and services that people want. And second, even making money does not mean you can't give back in some way or the other in terms of benefiting society. Okay, and that does not need to reflect the ideals of socialism in itself. Okay, taking care of society, taking care of the poor, the needy, etc., does not need to be socialism either. Okay, so that would be my answer.
Okay, thank you so much. I think that clarified it, a lot of what the two forces can be like the opposite, but they can still work together in a way that you told me that, you know, you can give back to the society and you don't have to harm anyone. And
I know people on both sides. I know many socialists who own businesses, definitely. Okay, but they do claim themselves to be socialists.
I think, if you allow me, Professor, I think in this case, we also can think about non-profit organizations, for example. So you can develop something, you can develop a service in order to help your country, to help people in necessity, not looking for profit as well, you know? So
absolutely.
You are doing something good.
Absolutely. Absolutely, Kayo. You can do non-profits, but guys, if I can level with you, but don't make that mistake that businesses are, I mean, this is something that we hear a lot. Businesses are evil. Don't fall into that rhetoric. Okay. If you didn't have businesses, people, how are you going to employ that many people? How are you going to have goods and services? That's a virtue in society in itself. The fact that an entrepreneur employs, let's say 100 people, 1,000 people, that's a virtue in itself. They create something good, okay, through which the others can also take care of their families. Okay, so don't always have that like the higher level of, you know, appeal for businesses and hold them to different standards. Finally, if businesses do badly, it's because of us. Okay, it's basically because of us. It's governments who allow them to do that. And who's to blame for that? It's us, not necessarily businesses. Businesses have to operate within the rules created by society. Okay, so keep that in mind. If we as society do not create those rules and regulations properly, this is where abuse happens. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Yeah.
That's good, Professor. And Laura, thank you very much for this question. It was very good. Well done. And Professor, if you allow me, business, we got every area. So we have to know a lot about it, to have knowledge about business, because for example, when we have a doctor and he want to have his own clinic, he's going to be an entrepreneur, right? Mm-hmm. And he has to have like the business knowledge to do that and to implant their own business and everything. Am I right?
Yes, definitely. You need to have a lot of knowledge, definitely. But again, careful here where I would say to be a great entrepreneur, a global entrepreneur, you need to have a good peripheral knowledge. You don't need to be a specialist because you can surround yourself, okay, with the right people. Now, being a surgeon, you might not be able to do that because your skills are very much relevant to what you do. Exactly. Okay, so if you're going to conduct a surgery without having the right knowledge, that could be extremely bad. But with business, what is good is, again, business does not happen in vacuum. So you need to be good. I mean, not good, but let's say you have to have a good idea of what's going around the world. If there are trade sanctions between US and China, that might affect Brazilian goods and services too, your businesses too. So you need to have a good peripheral knowledge of different things, okay? And of course, I would say one of the qualities for business people to be successful is more than intelligence. Hard work is very important. Resourcefulness. Even being a lawyer, what is important is not intelligence, resourcefulness. Can I make this happen? Or if I don't have any information, can I get it? This is what business people do. And this is why they can produce the pen in a few minutes, okay? And not the smartest people around the room here.
Great. Thank you, Professor. Lucas Moraes, he just popped up a question here, Professor. Which are the best countries to become an entrepreneur? Would be New Zealand, Singapore, is Latvia?
It depends. Again, if you're going by statistics, ease of doing business, how easy it is, and the environment, of course, the Scandinavian countries are excellent. Okay, so whether you're looking at Sweden, which is now a hub for startups, if you're looking at also some Anglophonic countries like New Zealand, Australia, they are hubs. From an innovative perspective, you still cannot match the US in terms of attracting talent. Okay, you also have Switzerland, which comes up as the most competitive country in the world in terms of hiring the best talent at a high salary and everything, but other issues can be a problem. So I do not think you should necessarily go with that. I think opportunities are present everywhere. Okay, if I was given this question, where do you want to be the biggest, best entrepreneur? I would say India right now. Okay, my country. Okay, there's a lot of things to be done, lot of needs to be satisfied, lot of money to be made, and a lot of people to be helped at the same time. So there's nothing better, I would argue, than India. And I think you can make the same argument. We can draw similar parallels with India and Brazil. We are in very, very similar, we had similar policies. We made the similar mistakes, let's say, in the past. We have big populations and very diverse as well as unequal population. So I would say, why not Brazil?
Great. Thank you very much, Professor. Thank you, Lucas. Well done for your question. Anyone else? Okay. So I want to thank you very much, Professor. It was amazing. It was brilliant, your class. And I'm 100% sure most of these students will be very excited to become your students in the future.
Oh, absolutely.
And that's why I'm going to...
And business.
Sorry, Professor?
Talk about socialism and business, one more. No, that is a very interesting question. I like that question.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I like that too. So that's why I'm going to jump to Kyle so he can talk a little bit, very, very quick about EU Business School, which is an amazing institute, guys. Please listen carefully about what Kyle has to say. Kyle is from the admission of EU Business School. He's Brazilian, but he's going to speak English. So
should I speak English or Portuguese with them?
Oh, you can speak Portuguese if the professor don't mind.
No, I don't mind.
You don't mind, Professor? So I think it's easy for everyone, and maybe I can grab their attention a little bit more.
Absolutely, no problem.
Ok. Boa tarde, pessoal, tudo bem? Isso realmente, espero que vocês tenham gostado bastante dos conceitos que o professor Suda nos passou hoje à tarde, né? Claro que isso é uma pequena parcela de tudo que a gente vê dentro de uma business school, né? A gente tem muitas outras matérias, não só as introdutórias, matérias que a gente vai aprofundar muito mais conhecimentos em parte de comunicação, marketing, administração de empresas, finanças, tudo que é necessário para fazer realmente a gestão de um negócio, né? Porque muitas coisas estão envolvidas com uma business school e com a gente poder realmente, desde criar alguns tipos de empresa, né, estabelecer algumas relações de empresa, como o professor nos ensinou, até realmente poder fazer a gestão dessa empresa, né? Muitos fatores estão envolvidos. Eu só gostaria de fazer um breve resumo para vocês, não vai passar de 2 minutos, tá? A EU Business School, EU de European Business School, tá? Nós somos uma escola de origem suíça, nascemos na Suíça, então hoje nós temos 2 campos na Suíça, em Genebra e Montreux, porém nós temos também um campus em Barcelona, na Espanha, e um campus em Munique, na Alemanha. Então estamos muito bem localizados aí em cidades muito interessantes de se conhecer, de se viver, de se aprender culturas e línguas também. São realmente... Cada uma dessas cidades são polos dentro da Europa e dentro dos seus respectivos países, né? A gente tem hoje dentro da EU praticamente 100 nacionalidades diferentes estudando, então para quem gosta de cultura, para quem gosta de conhecer novas pessoas, novas maneiras de fazer negócios, é uma oportunidade muito grande, tá? E além disso, a gente ainda tem a possibilidade de ter diferentes especializações dentro da IU. Então, a gente sempre vai abordar o tema business, né? A gente vai trazer uma base muito grande de business, porém temos as especializações como administração de empresas, relações internacionais, gerenciamento de esportes, para quem gosta dessa parte esportiva. Para quem está muito conectado à parte de digital business, nós temos uma especialização em digital business, tá? Então, nós temos várias opções de estudo dentro da IU e dentro dos nossos 4 campos, né? Para quem quer ter essa experiência muito completa na Europa, é possível fazer, inclusive, um intercâmbio entre campos. Então, você pode começar estudando o primeiro ano, por exemplo, em Genebra, com o nosso grande professor Suda, que leciona em Genebra, tá? E depois ter uma experiência em Barcelona, por exemplo, tá? E isso vai trazer muito mais experiência, muito mais conhecimento cultural para você também. Caso alguém queira conhecer um pouquinho mais de todos os pilares de ensino da IU Business School, as visitas que a gente faz às empresas aqui da região, os CEOs que a gente traz para conversar também com os estudantes, eu estou mais do que disponível para, junto com o Diego, atender vocês, poder contar um pouquinho da minha experiência, tá? Hoje eu moro em Barcelona, eu trabalho para a IU Business School e moro aqui em Barcelona. Eu já morei 1 ano na Suíça e trabalhei 8 anos com empresas alemãs, tá? Então eu também tenho bastante experiência e a gente pode trocar muita informação. Então eu agradeço essa hora de vocês aí na tarde, sei que vocês tiveram aula, mas é sempre importante a gente ter a oportunidade de conhecer novas coisas. Então, muito obrigado e eu espero poder marcar com vocês aí um bate-papo pessoal com cada um de vocês.
Bacana.
Vou deixar meu e-mail aqui no chat, tá?
Isso, deixa assim. Bacana, Caio. Muito obrigado. Eu agradeço muito a participação, a parceria da IU com a EFIG. E como o Caio falou, galera, quem tiver interesse em saber mais sobre a IU, manda e-mail para o Caio, manda um e-mail para mim, que eu vou colocar aqui meu e-mail e meu WhatsApp. Então pode mandar e-mail, manda o WhatsApp, que daí a gente marca uma conversa com o Caio, a gente conversa mais aí sobre o que você pode fazer dentro da IU. O programa de aconselhamento pode ajudar muito você aí que está em dúvida em qual área,
em qual país
vocês
estudar
podem fazer,
também,
qual
quiser
país
conhecer um
estudar.
pouco mais de cada país, a gente pode trocar informações a respeito de qual que seria a diferença entre morar em Genebra, morar em Barcelona, morar em Munique, por exemplo. Então, a gente pode abordar todos esses temas.
É isso aí. Então, quero agradecer aí a presença de todos, do Caio. Thank you, Professor Shuda. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
E quero só lembrar vocês que essa semana foi a semana de business. Espero que vocês tenham gostado. Semana que vem vamos começar o mock class de saúde. Então, semana que vem temos aí uma universidade de pré-medicina americana de Boston, que coloca os estudantes ali nas grandes universidades de medicina, Harvard, MIT, todas essas grandes universidades. E depois, na outra semana, aí temos um high school que vai falar de 3 áreas da saúde. Vai ser bem bacana. Então, se vocês têm aí amigos que estão interessados nessa área da saúde, não percam o mock class das próximas semanas, tá bom? Vejo vocês semana que vem, galerinha. Muito obrigado pela participação de todos.